5 years after my friends were kidnapped, I am still haunted by their disappearance. Tom and Adeline's kidnapping possesses my mind with relentless guilt. 5 years later, I still hang up missing posters, hoping for a miracle. They were taken right before my eyes, and I wish I had done more to save them. The reason for their abduction is a mystery, but I still have hope that they are out there, somewhere. My best friends and a married couple that everyone adored, Tom and Adeline, were in many ways my family. While it may have seemed like third-wheeling to some, I would often join them on many nights out and countless holidays away. Tom is, your classic macho man, and Adeline is best described as the quiet bookworm that has always got along with everyone. To find a detractor for them was like locating a needle in a haystack. The idea of a weekend vacation just outside of town sounded like a blessing, so I was over the moon when Tom texted me the invite. Once the planning was done with everything packed, the day arrived and the happy couple picked me up on their way to Armadillo Ranch. As I've been known to do, I fell asleep in the back seat during the trip. The sun was out when I dozed off, so I was quite shocked to be awoken at sunset by a bright yellow light shining through the windscreen. Being jolted up left me in a daze of consciousness, confused about where I was. With my memories muddled, I realized that Tom had been stopped by a policeman. Although I was technically awake, I felt as though many of my senses were faulty. After a brief exchange, we were back on the road. Funnily enough, I became fully alert after our departure. Now able to form thoughts, I quickly asked Adeline what all that was about. It was a police roadblock, she said. It seemed as though they were looking for someone, thankfully not us. Night had captured the land, but we luckily made it to the ranch soon after the encounter with the law. Tom had explained earlier that we had the whole place to ourselves. The location was small, but featured a homely old wooden house with a large barn nearby. Passing through the front gate, we had arrived at our weekend destination. It was pretty late, so we decided to scrap any evening plans and split up for the night. Tom and Adeline found themselves in the master bedroom, while I began to unpack in a single room along the main hallway. The building had an old smell to it, but it seemed largely well kept. It was exactly what you would expect from a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, made almost entirely out of wood. Settling into my room, I realized just how weak the nap in the car made me feel. It was only as I lay down that I felt fully myself again. But by that point, I was already shifting into the land of dreams. 3 loud knocks, that's what burst me awake. I jumped out of bed and raced to the hallway, meeting Tom and Adeline, who seemed to do the same. "Who the hell is that?" I asked. Neither of my friends had an answer, reiterating that to their knowledge, this place was isolated. Motioning for his wife to stay behind, Tom and I took the lead towards the entrance. Slowly walking to the door, we heard 3 more knocks, this time more violent. I recall wishing I'd owned a gun, a mistake I have since corrected. After a short journey, we stood near the entry to the home. The rim of the door was lit by a bright yellow light from outside. Tom looked at me. As I mentioned before, he was a strong individual, but occasionally I would see fear in his eyes. This was one of those times. Before he could look back at the entrance, the light disappeared. Avoiding further hesitation, Tom swiftly marched to the door and swung it open. A scene of pure silence. Nobody was outside. Stepping out in search of a sign, neither Tom nor I could see any footprints or tire tracks. "What the fuck?" I whispered. "What the fuck indeed?" exclaimed Tom louder. We were only outside for a few minutes, but it was a mistake that I'll always regret. I remember Tom's next words as clear as the moment he said them. Re-entering the house with me close beyond, he asked his wife for her opinion. "What do you think, Adeline?" To our shock, she was gone. We searched every room, every closet, every hidden space. At first, Tom thought it was a prank, likely avoiding the reality that his worst fear had come true. I remember trying to decipher the mystery myself. The knocking on the door combined with Adeline's disappearance led me to insidious thoughts involving serial killers and kidnappers. Shouting out for his wife, Tom slammed his fist in anger against the wooden wall of the kitchen. We heard her as soon as his hand made contact for a third time. Her blood-curdling scream came from the barn outside. To say we sprinted to the barn would be an understatement. It wasn't too far, but Tom and I were still out of breath as we dove inside. Regaining our strength, our labored breath delivered a noticeable fog to the cold air in front of us. The barn had been left unused for some time, with worn floorboards creaking under our feet. Utilizing his phone's flashlight for the search, Tom darted from corner to corner. A rotting ladder covered one section while old tools were discarded in another. Soon after, the pool of bright red blood at the center became abundantly clear. Stepping nearer, we both knew that this was likely Adeline's. Distraught and panicking, I attempted to console Tom, but he shrugged me off. "It might not be hers," I said rather foolishly. The look Tom gave me had murderous intent, so I abstained from speaking more. As we crouched towards the ground to examine the scene, the flashlight of his phone seemed to dim in brightness. Once Tom was closer, the phone shut off entirely. Mumbling to himself, I can't recall his words, but he seemed to have full confidence that his battery wasn't low when we entered the barn. After only a few seconds, the barn lit up in the same bright yellow light from before. Suddenly, the pool of blood became clear. To our surprise, it varnished the ground in a perfect circle. At this stage, Tom was too preoccupied to question the light. As soon as the barn ignited in the yellow glow, I noticed my consciousness slipping. It was as though I was losing who I was, all my memories and personality. Practically falling asleep on my feet, the moment felt similar to how I was earlier in the day. Fighting the nightmarish feeling, I stepped away from Tom, who was still kneeling by the blood. This was when I realized where the yellow light was coming from. Glancing above, I noticed the rays shining down through cracks in the roof. Whoever this intruder was, they were above us. I shouted to Tom many times, but nothing could avert his attention from the spherical stain. My soul was fading, so with all the strength I had left, I chose to leave the barn alone to confront whoever had kidnapped Adeline. Stumbling onto the ground outside, I turned and looked to the roof of the structure, expecting to see a creepy voyeur peeking in from above. My blurred vision was presented with not a person, but rather a long metallic tube, floating in the night. Seconds before I passed out, the light it was emitting became brighter, and everything around me was illuminated in a shining blaze. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by doctors who explained that I had been in a month-long coma. I soon learned that the owner of the ranch had discovered my unconscious body, with Tom and Adeline's whereabouts unknown. I have gone back many times, searching the house, probing the barn. I've never found any clue as to what happened. In fact, the blood stain was gone too. It was like we were never there at all. I don't know what happened that night. Much of it is still a riddle I've been trying to solve for years. More importantly, I don't know who abducted my friends. I spent today hanging up missing posters in a desperate attempt to see them again. Yet deep down, I fear that if they are still alive, they are somewhere beyond my reach.